Welcome back, guys. I have a video here submitted by one of you over in Discord. It's the tragic fate awaiting remote workers. Let's see.
Do you work remotely? Do you enjoy it? Well, you're responsible for the downfall of society, or as this CEO in this article calls it, the tragedy of the common. Now, if you don't know what the tragedy of the commons is, normally it's used in regards to resources and people being selfish. So, for example, he even uses it in this article. It happens when individuals make decisions that are right for themselves, but wrong for the common good. The common good does not revolve around...
So a CEO is now talking about the common good. You know how they give themselves bonuses, right? But they won't give bonuses to the workers. How they have golden parachutes for themselves when they're done working, but nothing for the workers. You know, they give you a 5-cent raise and tell you be a good boy with a pat on the head. Thank you for putting in 20 years, Timmy. By the way, your department's getting cut because we want to save some money and give ourselves bonuses. That common good, right? Cocksucking CEO. Wow.
On private companies with executives that have golden parachutes.
See?
This is the CEO, George Bratt. He's a pretty big brat, in my opinion. Arguably, this is what led to overfishing cod in the North Atlantic or overgrazing common land. However, this is an...
How the f*** are we making the comparison with overfishing? And people deciding to take financial power into their own hands and not be slaves for your shit corporation that you're trying to push. Do it for the greater good, bro. I can't buy my second yacht. What the f***?
Apples to oranges comparison. Applying this concept to people returning to the office implies that the office space is a shared resource that is being underutilized, and offices will be wasted if not enough people come back. People choosing to work remotely because they can instead of going into the office doesn't mean they're giving up the common good. This doesn't apply the same way that he's trying to use it in regards to resources. He is the executive onboarding expert that helps leaders accelerate complex transitions. ChatGPT corporate filler words, there you go. But if you scroll to the bottom, you can see that he's a pretty educated fellow. That's where I'm confused. Seems like you're trying to push a narrative. People have personal lives and families and their own desires. Your work and your company is not the common good, despite what you think. Are you a public service? Probably a private company. Further down in this article, he says, culture is the only sustainable competitive advantage. I'll pause for a second, and I'll let the viewers decide that. Do you think that culture is the only reason you go to work? It has nothing to do with your paycheck, or that you like the work that you do, or maybe that's what your degree is in. I mean, I don't know. It's just because culture. Maybe mingle with actual employees instead of just mingling with other CEOs that have no idea what the real world is like. He says, thus the risk to the collective, the organization, the common, is existential.
His company.
Yep. And then if you scroll further down in the article, he talks about employee engagement, and that can get them back to the office. Gallup suggests 12 questions to get at employee engagement. Let's look at those in a virtual remote world. And so he answers them with really snarky, non-realistic answers. Let me show you what I mean. Number 1, do I know what is expected of me at work? And then he responds and says, the answer is probably no if you never actually go to work. So first off, yes, I know it's expected of me because I can read and write and ask questions.
So CEOs are now getting pissed that remote work culture, working from home, has become a viable alternative for people post-pandemic especially. And that means they can exert less control. And they've tried with apps that monitor how long your mouse moves, you know, how much inactivity is on your computer. Some of them you have to keep your camera turned on to make sure you're there in front and working. It's a whole bunch of bullshit. All this is a ploy for control. They see that people are figuring out there are remote possibilities. These CEOs that have been taking advantage of their employees for so long are now seeing their grip slip, their bottom line being affected, and they now want to start the whole, don't worry guys, remote work is just not for the common good. We were destroying society. You need to be in the office making me millions of dollars. Like, my wife wants a third home in the French Riviera. And I've been eyeing that new Pagani BC. So like, get back to work, can be a slave so I could live my dream life. Thanks. It's for the common good, you know, because trickle down economics. When I buy my Pagani BC, it will trickle down onto you. You see what I mean? So the more I get to spend, the better it is for you. Cunts.
Is an activity. It's not a place. Being at work is like being at play, not like being at the playground. It's just conflating what we do with where we do it, and it creates this false picture of total disengagement for all of the remote workers. The second one says, do I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right? Maybe, but not at work. And I think this is a typo. I think he means to type maybe, but not at home, because the rest of them, he just dunk on people working at work. Do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? He says, no, because you're never actually at work. But also, when you're at home, you can use whatever you want to do your best work. You're not stuck with whatever they give you to do it. You don't have to use their germy chairs and keyboards and shared computer accessories. You can just do your best work wherever you are. You can make your own habits, you can make your own routines. So now that we're all productive remote workers, let's jump back into this list, which says otherwise. Number 4, in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? Far less likely if you're working remotely, unless you have a particularly appreciative boss, flipping management's issues onto the employees. The fact that your boss doesn't notice you because you're remote, that sounds like management's fault. Does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? Seems unlikely if they only know you as a picture on a screen. Or have they played any video game before that's multiplayer online? Have they made any friends online ever in their entire life? I don't know. You don't have to be in a physical space with someone to care about them. Out of touch. So number 6 here, is there someone at work who encourages my development? George says, again, less likely if you're not at work. That has nothing to do with the physical location and everything to do with accountability. At work, do my opinions seem to count? You catching on yet? You're not at work. Imagine what it would be like to work under this. Ever heard the phrase, they make $1, I make a dime, that's why I poop on company time? CEOs like this are the reason that phrase exists. Does the mission or purpose of my company make me feel like my job is important? If it were really important, wouldn't they want you to show up? This person is just making a fool of himself at this point. Number 10, do I have a best friend at work? And the CEO responds, hard to build deep relationships when you're using only 2 of your 5 senses. You're getting sound and some sight, but no smell, taste, or feel. Again, that is attached to the question of, do you have a best friend at work? Would you like to smell, taste, or feel your best friend at work? Doesn't that just sound like a recipe for an awesome life at work?
Yeah.
Because in my opinion,
that's you do those other 3 senses, HR's up your ass, and you're gonna get fired anyway. So, yeah. But he's the CEO, so he gets to taste, touch, and feel all his employees and be under that power dynamic. Piece of shit.
I don't want to do any of those things or use any of those senses with any of my coworkers, and the fact that you even bring them up is it's really weird. Mm-hmm. This last year, have I had opportunities at work to learn and grow? Only if you actually went to work. If these are the places that you work at and you're working remotely and you're suffering from being ignored and not growing and being checked in on or whatever, then go to a different place, because there are places you can work remotely and check all these boxes and you don't have to taste your coworkers, okay? It's going to require disciplined, deliberate, intentional investment in individuals to benefit the collective. And by collective, do you mean the executives at the top or society as a whole? It's starting to sound like it's just whoever's at this executive table, not the common good of everyone. Nice try though, George. And then a few days later, he wrote this article with another clickbait title. Forbes, I don't know why you keep giving this man access to your platform, but the literally hundreds of comments on my initial article on remote work and the tragedy of the commons were all blisteringly negative. Why is that? Is it because you said that people might want to smell and taste and feel their coworkers? I mean, it could be one of the things, or, maybe any number of those 12 answers that you gave might be why you got those negative comments, George. Maybe step outside of your bubble and see what actual life is like. Having said all that, if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor.
How could you be so tone deaf? I mean, and they wonder why people never spend more than 2 years. It's become the norm that you need to switch a job every 2 years in order to get a decent salary bump. Like, you actually lose money being loyal to a company. In what world? Like, CEOs are aware of this. Obviously, it benefits them. They rather deal with turnovers than have good, productive employees that they have to pay bump dramatically to keep. They rather have somebody do a half-ass shitty job for a few years and constantly cycle through half-ass shitty work as long as the pay and the bottom line matches up. As long as they can go to their investors in their earnings call and tell everybody how much money they're making and how they had a record quarter and et cetera, to please a bunch of morons that ultimately will destroy your company long term. The shareholders only care about profit in the short term, not the health of the company. They don't give a shit. The moment the health of a company starts to look questionable, the shareholders leave. I don't understand why we have this corporate culture, or I should say corporate setup, man. It's actually toxic for a company. You're exchanging short-term capital for the long-term health of your company. Isn't it better to invest in your employees? Shouldn't your employees be the ones that own stock in the company? Shouldn't you build up your employees so that they stay there long-term? Keep the most productive ones, the ones that could train and onboard the best, the ones that help with company culture, the ones that have potentially original ideas within the company structure that could get promoted, that could revolutionize the way you do business? Why is it so hard for CEOs to not be fucking retarded? I don't know. It's a question for the ages, because once one decent CEO comes around and he revolutionizes a piece of business that he's in, everybody looks at him like the new messiah. Everybody tries to copy the few good things he does, and he makes everybody happy from shareholder to employee, and the company explodes. I guess even at the top, being average and half-assing your job is a normal thing. Makes no difference, whether your position is entry level or CEO. The average person probably does a half-ass job because they're not invested in this shit. It's just a paycheck, top to bottom. Unless you're one of the founders of the company, that's your baby, that's your dream. Probably. That's the only way a company gets driven correctly. Other than that, some CEO is just some dude they brought on to manage the day-to-day. He's just a manager for the company. He doesn't give a shit. His title just happens to be CEO, but he's not the founder. Yeah, they don't care.